With the completion of a new and modern Methodist church in Abbey Street, it was to be the salvation for the communities in and around Nuneaton, who had witnessed their chapels and churches gradually closing due to a shortage of finance and diminishing congregations. The opening and dedication service took place on Saturday, the 15th of January 1966, under the name of St John's. It was renamed Nuneaton Methodist Church in 2014 and has become a centre of worship for the area. A venue for many varied activities, and a place where friends can meet for a chat over coffee and cake in comfortable surroundings. The proceeds from these activities go some way to help in the daily running of the church and in supporting local deserving causes. Childhood memories of attending the many churches and chapels in the town and surrounding areas are still very clear in the minds of the churchgoers, as a number of these are pleased to recall.
My name then was Eileen Copperwheat, and I belonged to Stockyford Methodist Chapel. We always called it chapel. For some reason I don't know, but it was always chapel, never church. And I went there when I was about 7, I think, and started off in the Sunday school with Mr. Dunning as superintendent, and it was very, very busy. It was full. The schoolroom was full, and we used to always have to have a star card stamped every morning and afternoon, because we used to have to go twice a day, twice every Sunday. And it was a good beginning for us. You know, we learnt a lot, and Mr. Dunning was absolutely wonderful. He used to tell a different story every time, and you kind of remember stories when you're talking to the grandchildren and such like. From the Sunday school you moved up into the Bible study classes, which were held in the church, and we used to start at the back, and then 2 or 3 pews in between, and then another class, and then another class. And then my class was Emma Burdett, and I was there till I was married. Oh, and there was a youth club as well, which we used to go to on a Monday and a Wednesday every week. We used to walk down 3 times every Sunday. And my friend and I said, I don't think we want to learn anniversary hymns anymore. We thought we were too big. Well, we decided not to go in. We walked down as normal and stopped outside the church and decided we weren't going in. And I looked round and my mother was walking behind me, and I didn't know. That was quite funny. Well, it weren't at the time, but it was a shock to me to think that you got found out. But you know, it was, you will be at Sunday school. We weren't never forced to go. We enjoyed going, and we were happy. There were good times, very happy times. And of course, my sister, who's younger than me, my mother, you will take her with you, because you didn't want your sister with you, did you? You will take her with you. And of course, she followed me, and we were always in Sunday school together. So, yeah. And anniversary times was lovely, because we sat on all these platforms, and we used to rush to get the best seats, as we thought, at the front. And everybody had new clothes, you know. One time in the year when everybody had a new frock or whatever. And Chris Cross used to teach us all the hymns, and he had his baton, and he was good. and we always used to sing away, and it used to be absolutely crowded. We used to stand outside on anniversary days, and they used to have benches all up the aisles as well to accommodate all the congregation, because it was so full. Such a happy place it was. It really was.
My name's Owen Stewart, and my first recollections of this area are when the family moved from the northeast in 1944. Along with other miners, my father came down and we started going to Arley Methodist Church. Arley Methodist Church actually was built and given to the community of Arley for worship by the private mine owners of Arley Colliery. But my recollections were a fairly large Sunday school, which was in those days, and anniversaries where recitations were done and solos were sung, and a very good and thriving youth club. We had 2 table tennis teams that both played in the Nuneaton League, but we also formed a Methodist table tennis league of our own with the churches round the circuit, and there were about 8 teams of all the small churches had a team in the Methodist table tennis league. So some very happy times were had at Arley. Basically a small church, but in those days a thriving one. Things were slightly different in that the Sunday evening service tended to be the main service of the day, and the earlier part of the day was still a service but more of a Sunday school time. Again, thriving Sunday schools with trips perhaps annually to places like Wicksteed Park for the Sunday school outings where you'd get at least a couple of coaches going, and plenty of youth club activities.
My name's Graham Harper. I started at Attleborough in 1938 when I was 7 years old. I didn't want to go to Sunday school, but my mother insisted I did and dragged me up there. It was built for a start by Hinckley Circuit. It was a tin built place, plus all the locals knew it as the Tin Chapel. If you asked for the Methodist Church, a few people used to scratch their heads. Where's that? And then somebody would say, oh, that's the Tin Chapel. So that's how it was fondly known as for, well, I think right up to today by people who live in Attleborough and know Attleborough. The church itself has gone through changes. When it was first built, all the benches were unique in the sense that you could sit and face the pulpit. Then if you wanted, you could stand up, swing the back of your pew and face the other way. Unfortunately, they're all gone. And there used to be concerts put on. There used to be pantomimes put on by a well-known character, Norman Painting. When he was a young man at college, he used to write his own pantomimes, and we put them on at Attleborough. The heating for the church was a big stove with a rail round it, and there was a story, well, my mother told this story. There was one lady who, it was a very stormy night and raining, and she was sitting by this stove, and she took her stockings off and hung them over the rail to dry. There was some really characters at the time. When we used to be able to shift the benches, on a Saturday night, the church provided us with a gramophone player. We used to go in there, the lads used to shift the benches, stack them up, and we had dances and games on a Sunday night. We've got to remember there was no television then. We enjoyed ourselves making our own entertainment in that chapel. They were great days, they were. Very good. But there were some great times, and it is up to a certain point a great pity that it has closed. But as with a lot of churches, the number of people attending dwindled, and as it came, it unfortunately had to close. But I know I've left there before it closed. But I had fond memories of Atborough.
My name is Margaret Merrill, and I attended Chilvers-Coton Methodist Church. Chilvers-Coton Methodist Church holds many memories for me, both happy and sad, but mostly happy. There have been 3 Methodist churches in Coton over the years. The first one faced Coton Road and was built in 1804. The church grew, and in 1904 a bigger church was built facing Henry Street. This was destroyed in 1942, the night of the Nuneaton Blitz. Only the small outbuilding was left standing, and the people worshipped there until the new church was built in 1958. The new church was very modern and well designed for its day, all on one level, and one large room with the sanctuary at one end and a stage at the other. This could be divided into 2 rooms or left as one big room, depending what it was being used for. The sanctuary was a very special place with 3 beautiful stained glass windows. When the sun caught the windows, the reflection from the stained glass reflected on the walls, and the atmosphere was very spiritual. Back in the 80s and 90s there was a big Sunday school, and the sermons were very special, with 3 services on Sermon Sunday. There was rows and rows of children singing their hearts out and really enjoying themselves. This was followed by tea and games before they went home, tired but happy. This was a very happy time and continued until our older members either passed on or their health started to fail, and the younger people seemed to have different things to do on a Sunday, and membership of the church began to fall, and it became obvious that the church could not carry on much longer. Before Coton closed its doors as a church for the last time, we celebrated its bicentenary, 200 years of Methodism in Chilvers-Coton. The final service at Chilvers-Coton Methodist Church took place on Sunday the 31st of August 2008 at 4 p.m. Words cannot express the sadness felt at the end of this service, the end of an era.
My name's Judith Lavis, and I'm from Ridge Lane Methodist Church. I've been there since about 1972, playing the organ, doing Sunday school. In the beginning, the Methodist Church started with like-minded people in Ridge Lane Village who began holding religious meetings in their homes. Their numbers grew until it was no longer practical to hold services in this way. People put their hands in their pockets and took their jackets off and built a meeting house in the middle of the village. This housed an ever-growing number of worshippers. Apart from weekly Sunday services, there was also a Sunday school for the young people, both of which were very well attended. The Sunday school children used to go around Ridge Lane, Piper's Lane and Birchley Heath in the summer on a tractor and trailer, later on a lorry, which was equipped with straw bales for them to sit on, and singing to the piano which the men cheerfully placed on the trailer. I remember this well. I played the piano as we drove around the villages, and everyone would come out of their houses and give us a donation and wave, and it seemed as though they knew everybody. This sadly stopped when the Sunday service became a family service and the Sunday school ceased to meet. In May 1931, a brick-built Wesleyan chapel was erected with the money raised by local businessmen's private subscriptions and by the worshippers themselves holding bazaars, concerts and social events. And it is strongly believed that the local colliery owners, the family of Mark Phillips, Princess Anne's first husband, gave generously in the 1920s. Set into the building's walls are blocks with the names of some of the people who contributed, and all the monies raised were used to buy the materials needed, and the men of the village actually built the church. The interior was equipped with a gallery, 3-tiered choir stalls, fixed wooden pews, and a coke burner. In 2004, the church was altered internally to allow the room to be used on a multi-purpose basis. Manchester Parish Council gave a significant amount of money for this to be possible. Ridge Lane Methodist Church and Community Hall has been used extensively ever since, not only for worship on a Sunday, but for various social activities.
Hello, my name's John Parnham and I used to be a member of Chapel End Methodist Church. I now live next door to it, but it's no longer a chapel. My first memories were when I went into the church. It was a very lively, family-centred church, and if I remember, there were something like 30 children in the Sunday school, something that you'd very seldom see nowadays. And we did all sorts of activities. There was a good Sunday school. The chapel end style of worship was, to say the least, informal, I think you could say. There were a lot of congregational participation services where we were given activities, and you walk in and you're suddenly asked to do a reading or a sketch or something like that. There are some faces that I remember, the people that are no longer with us. Some of the oldest members, like Madge Parks, she was coming there she was 92 when she died, and she was probably there in about 1910. I remember Nick Skelding, who was there for quite a few years, and we did quite a few things with him. Also Jenny Hurd, we really enjoyed having Jenny. She did so much to help our church out. I don't know, in many ways we grew spiritually because she was there. I think a lot of people admired Jenny because of her work. We had this very emotional final service, very emotional. Literally there were tears. And that's when Jenny came to speak to us and said how brave we were to close it. But all the things that it meant were written in the building, and they've been there for a very long time, and it wouldn't be forgotten. I know that quite a few people in the community said that we shouldn't, and the council said that we shouldn't, but we said, well, if they'd have actually supported us and come and become a part of the community and done things, then maybe we wouldn't have had to. So that's how it works sometimes. But it's very sad. As I say, I see it every time I step outside my door. It's now called Stanley Brick House. It took nearly 2 years to sell, and it's now a tenanted house. Some of the congregation had dwindled, and also the Sunday school was practically down to nothing as well by the time we got to that point. So I think we were coming to that sort of time when it was calling time. It's a pity, but it was a very sad day when it had to close. A very sad day. The building's still there, and it reminds us every now and again of what used to be.
I'm Helen Hill. I was Helen Dingley, and I went to Ridge Lane Methodist Church from a baby. I was christened there. I got married there. I went to Ridge Lane Sunday School, and I was a Sunday school teacher. We had about 50 Sunday school children, and we used to go on outings every year, either Sutton Park or I forgot the other one, but same place every year. 2 busloads, and then after we were married, I went to Hartshill Methodist Chapel, and I went there all my life till I'm now 85. That was our choice of chapel. I never got one little girl, but then I had another girl, 2 girls, and we used to go twice a day to Hartshill, take the girls with us so we could walk to the church. Saturday evening, the phone rang. This minister was coming to the circuit, got nowhere to stay. And Alex said, oh, you can come here. So he came here. His name was the Reverend Wilkinson. He wasn't married. He'd come from abroad. And when he came, I said, well, you're very welcome. And he said, have you got any Indian tea? I said, well, that's the first, because I haven't. So he came, and he was supposed to stay over the weekend while they found him somewhere. But he didn't. He stayed here for nearly a year, till his manse was ready. I could tell you a few things about ministers. My mother had the local preacher, because we had afternoon and evening service. We went twice a day. So my mother and aunties used to feed the local preachers, because they had to stay for tea. They come in the afternoon, have tea, and go back in the evening. I used to have them for tea. Mr. Kingswood, his name was, the Reverend Kingswood, and he always put his serviette up here. So I said, oh, goodness me, we haven't got anything for Mr. Kingswood to put under there. And he said to her, come on, Marilyn, you come and sit by me. Okay, she sits by him, puts the serviette up. Said, this is a nice serviette, Marilyn. She says, yes, it's Mrs. Thompson's from next door. A country little community, and people around us liked us, you know, and we used to have little sales and gets-togethers, coach trips, and I used to play the organ badly. You were like a big family, really, because there weren't a lot of you. I think because it was such a small church, with such a close community, really, and everybody helped everybody else. If you know if something was wrong with someone, you'd be there. And yet the people in the village really liked it, you know, and if we had anything special, they would help, but not in the later years. Unfortunately, we had to close the church. Financially, it had to close, really. I mean, I'd been there all those years. We all loved it, really. And it was so sad. But it's got a lot of happy memories.
With a history of Methodism on this site, stretching back for almost 200 years, this current church is set to confidently serve the community well into the future.